Hi, welcome to this channel on magnetic energy technology principles applications. This video is about one of the most dangerous and reckless things humanity has ever done or created, GMOs. And this is highly unconventional information. So what's so damaging or what's so wrong or bad about GMOs? Now, aside from the obvious answers, which are partly conventional, and that is just the implications for disease among humans and animals that consume GMOs, the destruction of the environment, terminator seeds, the cross contamination to other farms, all these things, the idea of like corporate control and corporate farming and controlling the human race through farming, and there are so many implications, even just from a purely conventional point of view, of why GMOs are incredibly dangerous and damaging. But from this etheric magnetic model of the universe, it really takes it to kind of a different level, and it starts really getting into the nature of our existence. And it's another example of one of those things where, of course, it's about greed and it's about corporate control and profits and all those things. But there's also something connected to this Einsteinian model of the universe, this idea that everything is an isolated system, that things are separate, that there's no interconnectivity between life and things on the planet and the universe and everything else. And it's also this idea that there's no etheric magnetic energy that pervades and flows through everything. And so as soon as you embrace that incredibly destructive model of the universe, it opens the door for things like GMOs without thinking about the interdimensional implications of that. And so it's the main point of this video is we have to look at everything, and that includes a field of crops, as interconnected to everything else on this planet, because at that subatomic quantum level, that magnetic etheric model, where even scientists, even now, when they're analyzing the structure of protons and they're seeing that there's things blinking out of existence in them, well, in this magnetic model, yeah, there are interdimensional components to everything that are coming in and out of interdimensional traveling, basically, that are pre-encoded, that travel from structure to structure to structure, or system to system to system. Now there's the interdimensional aspect of what's happening in etheric quantum magnetic level is outside of space and time. So as soon as you have an entire field that has changed in genetic resonance compared to the rest of the planet that is resonating from a natural point of view. Well, it used to be. Things are so contaminated now, it's not even funny. But in that moment, you've already contaminated the whole system. You've already changed the resonance of all the interconnectivity of life and everything else, and even what we would call non-life or physical objects. You've already changed that interconnectivity across the board. Now, and then when you get into the massive destruction of this, when animals and humans start consuming those genetically modified organisms and all of those crops, and now it's of course moved into meat and everything, but just from the crop point of view, that is then changing the resonance, the magnetic etheric resonance of the human beings that eat that food and the animals that eat that food. That starts changing the, if you want to call it, the subatomic magnetic resonance of all the energy flowing through all of those people that have eaten that, and all of those, and all the crops that are just sitting there, but they're part of a larger system. And even when you have cross pollination, or you have bees that are pollinating those crops, that honey then goes into a system that changes the resonance of those bees. That in turn changes the overall resonance of nature. So we have this massive problem on the planet where we are not connecting well to the universal flow of resonance. We have to look at every system, and a crop being a system, a piece of food being a system, a human being, an animal, a bee, a flower. All of those are systems that are interconnected to the whole, and we have to look at those as part of that interconnectivity and that contribute to an overall resonance, and we cannot mess with nature. We have to let nature be the guide. That's partly why, like in the magnetic resonant world, all we want to do is let the natural systems function the way they have evolved, if you want to say it that, to function, or the way they've been created to function that way. Whatever you want to whatever you want to subscribe to in terms of how things have come about, whether it's been created or whether it's evolved, it doesn't matter. We cannot match the perfection of the existing system, and to try to modify it is beyond insane. It's beyond destructive. We have to go back to natural systems because everything is interconnected. And that's one thing that will be proven as this technology comes out and as we go through this paradigm shift, that the interconnectivity is so incredibly important, and it leads to everything, including ascension and including basically like all of our natural abilities getting heightened. When you throw the resonance off of a whole system, it suppresses the energy flow. It blocks the energy flow. That's a huge problem in terms of our evolution, our ascension, the ascension of the planet and everything. And that's partly why all of that has to come to a grinding halt, because we are under essentially mandatory ascension on this planet. And GMOs are one of the things that are blocking that process. And you really think that's coincidental? Of course it's not coincidental. There are forces at work that don't want humanity to ascend the way it's intended to. And so of course they're going to do everything they can, and genetically modified organisms are one of those things that will throw off, and it does throw off, the resonance of this planet, the resonance of all the life on this planet, and that includes human beings. So by all means, don't eat genetically modified food if you can help it. I mean, it's very difficult, especially in the States, because it's essentially everywhere. So you can't even go out to a restaurant without eating some sort of GMOs. But it's very important that we take a stand on this and that we protect your own body as much as you possibly can, and for whatever you can afford, whether it's organic food and everything else. But it's also just this understanding that everything is deeply interconnected. So please send in any questions and comments you have about this and your thoughts on GMOs